That's a very hip-looking Mike Johnson right there.
It is, isn't it? Hey,
What it is, Dregs, is someone who just woke up, did not know he was coming on camera, and elected to put something on their
hang
head.
on. I'm bringing up the text message. So we're talking about content. I'm sending ideas back and forth. We're all discussing amongst ourselves. Mike Johnson, what is this? 16 minutes ago. Are we doing this today? Question mark. Happy Wednesday to you folks. Welcome to Got Your Back, NHL edition, Lebrun and Rishaug. Brought to you by Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals. Got a great podcast in store for you today. Little NHL midpoint roundtable discussion. We'll be joined by Darren Dreger and Mike Johnson to talk about a number of different things as the NHL officially hits the midpoint of the season. Little Oilers talk. We'll talk about the Canucks. Blew another lead last night in tough fashion to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Little trade chatter, and then our quick hitters segment where we'll throw some stuff at the guys and see what they spit back at me. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals provides equipment and supplies to all facets of the Canadian construction industry. But what sets them apart is their get-her-done attitude. It's a core value of this company, and they have it proudly displayed on the walls at each of their branches. Every one of their staff members lives by that get-her-done formula to ensure they never let their customers down. They'll bend over backwards to get their clientele what they need and when they need it. Absolutely no excuses. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals. We're proud to have them as our title sponsors here on Got Your Back, Lebrun and Rishaug. All right, time to check in with all of the fellas. Darren Dreger and Pierre Lebrun joining us from Toronto. And from what I understand, literally in his father's basement, MJ, Mike Johnson. What do you got going on there, Johnny? You got the toque going. You're in Dad's basement. What's happening,
Listen,
man?
you know, the common jab at anyone's like, you're down in your parents' basement on the internet. Well, guess where I am? I'm down in my parents' basement on the computer talking about hockey, things I don't know about. Yes, I am continuing my homelessness for a little bit longer, and so now I am occupying my parents' basement for a few more weeks.
Hey,
So
can you
you should
stand
write a
up
blog
to make
now.
sure that the what's that?
He should write a blog
Write
from
a
the
blog.
basement.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a big shot at all the basement bloggers.
Wow,
Hey,
Pierre.
Pierre, stepping out a little
Sakes.
bit, huh? Johnny, stand
I'm
up.
one of them.
Stand up.
I'm one of them.
Let's see if your waist is like halfway down
got
the
your
crack
underwear
of
on?
your arse.
Like,
Yeah.
what do you got? Yeah, what do you got?
I have a pair of pajama
Sweatpants?
pants on.
So do
Almost
I.
look like track pants.
Soft pants is what we call them.
Yeah, this is me having woken up half an hour ago, knowing I was coming on this 10 minutes ago. Not to suggest I'm not prepared. I'm just saying it wasn't calendared the way I usually do it.
See, and this podcast is a little bit different than the much softer Ray and Dregs where they tape. You know, they got lots of time to get up and get themselves together. Like, I push you guys early in the morning here. So this is a bit of an earlier morning pod. So Dregs, you have pajama pants. Johnny, you have pajama pants. Pierre, what do you got? Let's see the pajama pants.
How do you know I have any pants
We got
on?
2 for 1, Dregs.
Surprisingly
Exactly the
flexible,
same.
Dregs. You pop that leg up like, I'm surprised your hamstrings have that much give in them. I've seen
We
you
just lost
waddle
Dregs
around.
the rest of the pod. He's done. He's
There
out.
you go.
Pierre's got
Track
those.
pants.
Okay, I'll do the same
Yeah.
thing. See, I can't get my leg up that high. Yeah,
There
I
you
got
go. We're wearing the
I got
same
gray
pants,
pajama
Brian.
pants. Yeah, all right. Well, we're all in our pajamas. Only one of us is in our dad's basement, though. So, Johnny, I think that gives you permission, Johnny, to be as like controversial and annoying
right.
as you want on today's
Hot
podcast.
takery all day long.
Exactly. Hot takes from Dad's basement. Pierre, how are you feeling after a 26-6 drubbing of your Cowboys from the Commanders as they stare down the barrel of Brady and company?
Oh, this is great. You know what? When you love a football team that has had no playoff success for the most part for 26 years, what better way than to go and play the GOAT in the first round of the playoffs to get that
Right.
to get that off your back? Oh my goodness.
Have they ever beaten Tom Brady? I don't think the Dallas Cowboys have ever won a game against Tom Brady.
Brady is 7-0 against the Dallas Cowboys, and yet the Vegas guys and MJ's big on the Vegas guys have still favored
Mystic
the Cowboys.
Mike.
I think by 3, so it's a toss up. But when the visiting team's favored by 3 on the road, it's not quite a toss up. It means that they do think the visiting team is favored. But you never know what you get with my Cowboys, man. They could win big. They could embarrass themselves. It's theater. I love it. Who knows?
You
What
almost
we're gonna get.
wonder if, like, as a fandom, hockey, football, whatever, if it's better or worse if you're the favorite or a heavy favorite. Like, somehow are you setting yourself for more disappointment if you
Right.
don't win and you're supposed to, as opposed to if you're an underdog or something like that? I almost think it might be worse for Dallas. Tampa's
Right.
no
Could be.
good this year.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. They're terrible. And yet,
Yeah.
if you don't beat them this year, probably makes it worse.
Yeah. Well, they were terrible until 2 weeks ago when they needed to win their division, and then Brady lit up Carolina, and Mike Evans looked like Mike Evans, and I was like, oh, of course, just in time for the playoffs.
They
But,
can't run the
ODog,
ball. They might as well
ODog
put
always
you at
says
running
this.
back, Pierre.
Yeah, I know. Run the ball. You're right. Both teams should be running the ball Monday night, by the way, the Bucks and the Cowboys. ODog always says this about the Cowboys. He says they're like the Leafs. Is that it's this team that is good every year and gets the fans excited, and then come the playoffs. And that may seem unfair to Leaf fans on one side and Cowboys fans on the other, but until both franchises, prove something when it matters, that's what it's going to be. I think it's actually a decent comparison.
We need to get ourselves some sort of an NFL sponsor on this pod because we. And what are you going to be wearing when you watch that game? Like, are you going to be full?
You don't
like
put
foam
gear
finger
on to
hat,
watch at home.
like
Don't
just-
tell
No.
me you
Yes,
put gear
he
on to
does.
watch at home.
He
No,
puts
I
gear on
don't.
at home for sure.
And I've already had a couple of requests from buddies saying, hey, do you want to get together Monday night to watch that game? And the answer was no. I will be alone in my
Come
office with the game on. No family
no, you
around
won't.
me. I
You're
can't.
going to
I
lock
can't be around
yourself
people.
in. It's
No.
too intense for you. You can't even be around anybody, Pierre.
This is correct.
Fairly
This is
enjoyable.
all-
It's
this
so
is-
intense. It's not even enjoyable. It's
How
terrible.
is that fun?
Like,
How is
you're
that
not
fun?
playing in the game. Like, you're just a fan.
Come on.
Come on.
I've got to move on. I'm getting a little.
Yeah,
Oh my
it's just-
goodness. I can't believe that. We're going to have to talk to your wife and get her to take some video of you just in your
Yeah.
office stressed right out. I would love to see that. Okay, guys, we've reached the official midpoint of the NHL season, so lots to discuss. Let's get to the breakdown brought to you by Pro Hockey Life, and the drive is on big time for the playoffs. So no better time to outfit yourself with your favorite team's gear. Pro Hockey Life is the place to go. If you want to pick up that jersey, your favorite player, wear it proudly. They've got an awesome selection of team apparel, and it doesn't end at the jerseys. They got a wide range of hats and shirts and souvenirs, everything you need for yourself or the huge hockey fan in your life. So if you want to get yourself adorned in your team's favorite gear, lock yourself in your office, and stress out while you watch the game, Pro Hockey Life is the right place to go ahead of time. Quickly on last night's results, guys, the Vancouver Canucks, blowing leads was an issue for them early in the year. It's continued throughout the year. How about last night? They blow a 3-0 lead in the first period. The Pittsburgh Penguins come storming back last night. Evgeny Malkin ends up on a 4-point night. But man, the hardship continues in Vancouver. And I was listening to Bruce Boudreau's postgame, and I feel like we've been talking about Bruce Boudreau about to be let go on every podcast we've done this year. So, Dregs, I put it to you. If he hasn't gone yet, he's ripped his team. He's, said things publicly. We've been talking about it constantly. Are they just going to run out the year with him? Like, what's the plan here?
Yeah, well, I doubt they run out the year with him, but it has to be considered a distinct possibility for obvious reasons. One of them might be, okay, well, if you're firing Bruce, who are you replacing him with? And is the right fit available right now? I mean, Andrew Burnett isn't leaving the Devils. Go down the list of potential candidates that Jim Rutherford and Patrick Galvin might want to consider from the outside. So then you're left with, Mike Yeo, who's on the bench in Vancouver. You've got Jeremy Colton in the American Hockey League, who, by the way, I think the Canucks have time for, but you're not pulling Jeremy Colton out of the American League just to get you through to the end of the year, right? So, and I don't know that they believe, well, I don't think they think he's the long-term fit or the answer just yet. So it's possible. It's possible. But I remember reporting on this probably 6-8 weeks ago and saying that I thought February would be the tipping month for Bruce Boudreau, only so that they could see where they were at in relation to the draft, a non-playoff team. And if the right outside fit wasn't available, then you limp to the end of the regular season with Mike Yeo or someone internal. And I still feel that that's the most likely scenario.
Looks like.
Go ahead,
Pierre, don't you think it, like, you look at Bruce's body language, like whether it's a post-game presser or behind the bench, and it looks like a guy who's almost resigned to his fate. Like you saw some clips of him behind the bench just going like, shaking his head saying like, I've tried everything. Like what? I don't know what to do with these guys right now and getting them to play defense with this roster. It would be a weird feeling in that room right now because they know changes are coming.
Yeah.
It's relatively significant, and they're just kind of, I mean, they're working to try to win games, but they're not going to make the playoffs, I don't think. And they know like new coach, new captain, new everything could be on its way in the next month or two. So it'd be kind of a tenuous existence in the Canucks room right now.
Yeah, and it's worth reminding everyone again, as you guys know, that they're paying Travis Green through June 30th as well. So I think there's only so many coaches you want to pay real money until you figure out potentially if you want another coach starting next season. But I think we're also, I mean, the coaching question is, to me, so minute in the bigger picture of what's going on with the Canucks. I mean, you could feel the angst of Canucks fans when you read some of their social media posts and their commentary. I mean, this is a fan base that is so frustrated in terms of the bigger picture vision. Where is this team headed? And I think, you know, it has to start with ownership when you consider what is the vision. It starts with him. I mean, this is Aquilini's team. And, you know, what is he telling Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin? You know, why aren't they doing a full rebuild? Why did they re-sign JT Miller? These are pertinent questions, I think, that Canucks fans have as far as the true frustration isn't just this season. It's the whole buildup of, like, what are we doing past this year? You know, why aren't we trying to get into this lottery thing for North Vancouver's Connor Bedard? I think those are real good questions, to be honest.
Where was all this angst, though? I just say, like, we look back. Where were the Canuck fans last summer? Like, were they, Bruce, there it is. Let's sign JT Miller. We're going for it. We played at a 650 clip under Boudreau. Like, I get the long term, but I don't remember a ton of, we shouldn't be signing JT Miller. Now,
no,
you might have said that, Pierre, but from the fan base, I don't recall this. Like, it's time for a rebuild. This team is kind of flawed anyways. We may be good, but we're definitely not great. So, I mean, you know, maybe a little bit revisionist history, too, by the fans, because I don't remember this last summer.
Yeah, and look, I know what the message is from ownership to management, and that's Alvin and Rutherford, is fix it. It doesn't do you any good to look. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do you any good to look back and say, look, we made a mistake. We didn't like the initial Horvat ask, so we quickly turned over because we also didn't like what we were getting in return for JT Miller on the trade front. So we doubled down on JT Miller. You can look back all you want. It's not going to help anything. When you say fix it, see, and this is the plan of the Vancouver Canucks is a unique and an interesting one, and I don't know if it's achievable. It's to fix it so that this team is ready to be a much better team to the start of next season. Well, when you're pushing Bo Horvat out, you're pushing Brock Besser out and probably other pieces.
Maybe Kuzmenko,
Yeah, I mean, we know they want a young center back. We know they want a young right shot defenseman. They need to clear up some cap space. All of those things boiled into one pot. I don't know how they can be better next season. I guess we'll find out.
We talked about the comeback win by the Pittsburgh Penguins last night. Real interesting decision that the organization made as far as the Penguins go. They were finishing a long road trip on the road in Arizona. Rather than fly home, they made a detour to Montreal to stop in at the wake of Chris Letang's father, Claude. So that meant that their skate on the game day was optional. Not everybody was able to get there. So nice gesture by the Pittsburgh Penguins, the entire team. Letang, of course, hurt right now and wasn't with the team. And the whole team showed up at that wake. And then they went out with a real gutsy performance against the Vancouver Canucks in a comeback win. Guys, let's get to the Edmonton Oilers. Little bit of perspective here. Final Four last season. Lots of expectations coming into this year. They sign Evander Kane to the longer-term deal. They feel they're deep up front. They're wanting to take a step forward. Well, as we sit right now, they're 21-18-3. They're sitting in the second wild card spots, not even in the conversation for one of the top three spots in the division, sitting 7 points back of Seattle right now. It would be an unmitigated disaster if somehow this team missed the playoffs. guys. And I was thinking about what the reaction would be, if it would be scorched earth or what it would be. But the idea of missing the playoffs after a Final Four year, Johnny, it's very real right now. It's very possible given the way they're playing and the teams that they're going to be battling with here down the stretch.
You say they're in 8th, but they're actually in 10th by point percentage.
Yeah,
right. Like, so
by you.
it's not, they are out of the playoffs halfway through the year. And Evander Kane, and like everyone can appreciate how good Evander Kane has been in Edmonton. But the fact that you're clinging to Evander Kane to solve all your problems, like just wait till Evander Kane gets back. Just wait till he's really good. He's not that good. Even if he scores goals, like I know he does a lot of things for them. So their defense is just porous. It's just not good. And they have the two best offensive players in the world, or two of them, who are on historic paces for career years. And to think that given that kind of production from McDavid and Draisaitl, and they're still not in the playoffs, like that's how far away they are. We run down the list: depth scoring, defensive personnel, and game planning. Marks in net, inconsistencies in net. Like it's across the board. So my only thing, though, guys, like Dregs, when I think about Edmonton, sometimes Toronto pays attention to Austin Matthews only having a year left on his contract, whatever. Draisaitl only has 2.
Oh yeah.
McDavid only has 3. Like they're wasting, running out of time on the contracts of these two incredible players. Like I'm never one for like irrational, not well thought out decisions by management. Feels like Edmonton can't be that patient right now. Like they gotta go. Like they can't just be like, well, we'll wait for next year. You can't really afford to wait given the timeline of these two guys. So it's surprising because they played much better under Woodcroft last year, but their roster's got all kinds of issues. So it can't be just go get Joel Edmondson. That's not going to fix everything. There's multiple things that have to get done. But I think you got to try to do it all and trade prospects and trade first rounders to be super aggressive this year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Johnny. And I mean, your timeline is bang on, and ownership and senior management knows that. They know that. They're looking at a 3-year timeline because of McDavid and Draisaitl. I don't know. I mean, it's our job to question everybody. It doesn't matter what your management resume is. So it's fair to question the approach here of Kenny Holland as GM of the Edmonton Oilers, and why we know why he's being so patient. We know he's on the phone and he's talking to all these general managers who may have defensemen in play. If it were so easy to make a deal, he'd have made a deal by now. And the reason he hasn't made a deal right now is because he doesn't like the asking price. Thing that I would submit, though, is how many years does Holland have left? Pierre, this is it 2 years left? 1 year left?
2 years left, yeah. 2 more years.
I mean, he will manage in the National Hockey League for as long as he wants to, whether it's Edmonton or it's elsewhere. But I'm a bit surprised that he hasn't been more aggressive, to be fair. I mean, do we know what Xavier Bourgault or any of these top prospects are going to be at the NHL level? You project and you expect and you hope they develop into impact players. I doubt those guys are going to be impact players for Kenny Holland in Edmonton. I doubt that. So I'm a bit surprised he's been as patient as he has been because of the need and the level now that is changing from need to desperation for the manager to do something here.
Yeah, there's so much to get to with the Oilers. You guys have touched on the most important parts, I think. But to that point, Dregs, I will tell you that I think that Ken Holland in some ways is caught between two worlds. And one is, yes, that he absolutely understands the need to win now with McDavid and Draisaitl, the window they're in now, which is why, as we talked about in Insider Trading last night, Kenny Holland's been among the busiest GMs on the phone the last couple of weeks, exploring the D market. On the flip side, I think the reticence in wanting to trade first-round picks or top prospects is the other world that Kenny Holland's caught in with the Oilers. I think Ken Holland went to Edmonton and made himself a promise. I have to fix this franchise that continually trades away all its futures and doesn't produce enough homegrown players. I truly believe that. He's never said that to me, but it's just my read from the outside that Ken Holland wanted to leave the Oilers at the end of his contract knowing that they had more homegrown players on the ice that they have had in the past. The problem now is I don't know how those things can overlap and coexist in the moment to the point you guys have made. You're either in this or you're not. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be difficult to achieve both those goals. So you have to decide what you are if you're the Edmonton Oilers. And, I know you guys agree with this, but I made this point on Insider Trading. I'm a little fearful of this buildup towards the D trade they're going to make. They are going to trade for a defenseman. It's not a cure-all. This team has got to play better by itself right now. There are so many players underperforming, especially defensively, on this team right now, that the idea that whoever walks in that door, that the Oilers ream off a 10-game heater as soon as that trade's made, is ridiculous. This is from within. The same guys who are on this team that beat Calgary in the Battle of Alberta in the second round are on this team right now. That's where the change of the season has to happen.
Yeah, there's been regression on a couple of fronts, guys, and a couple of fronts where they couldn't afford to have regression, right? Darnell Nurse, for the money he makes and the minutes that he plays, to have his game go the wrong way this year, devastating for them from a defensive standpoint, because he takes up so much space, right? And he's just such a big part of every single game. Yeah, I think he came back healthy, was our understanding. I mean, listen, it's halfway through a season, so I guess you never really know. But word
Bouchard has struggled.
Yeah, and Evan Bouchard, another player that has regressed coming into this season. The fundamental flaw in this Oiler timeline towards a cup has been this. The forwards, their core forwards, have been ready for a few years. Mm-hmm. Their blue liners were lagging a few years behind. And it was never going to be where the Evan Bouchards and Philip Brobergs peaked at the same time McDavid and Draisaitl were ready. So there's this gap. Right. Then remember the other thing that happened? They lost their second pairing. Poof, gone. Adam Larson, Oscar Klefbom for nothing in return. And bridging that gap on the blue line, they're top heavy with the guys here at forward, and the blue line isn't ready yet, and it's Ken Holland's job to fix it. I'm with you guys, though, Broberg, Holloway, this year's first, next year's first, Xavier Bourgault. None of these assets should be off the table. Their timeline is go, go, go now. The biggest thing Ken Holland can do for the Oilers organization to set them up for future success is to let Connor McDavid hoist the Stanley Cup in an Oiler uniform. The chances of him sticking around after, it's the elephant in the room, right? You got to win while these guys are here so that maybe they stick around and it's a legacy thing. I mean, that has to be big time in their thoughts, Dregs.
I would think so. Again, it's going to be very curious. It's not like there are trades every other week. And Ken Holland is missing the boat here, right? Trading in the National Hockey League has become a rarity anyway in terms of those pieces that are acquired and are substance pieces. But the window is quickly closing. I mean, it's abundantly clear that the window is quickly closing. So he's going to do something, as we've all talked about here. At some point there's going to be pressure on Holland, whether he feels it or not. I mean, it's not like the owner is sitting on the sidelines and not delivering some form of message, right? Whether that's directly to Kenny or through Bob Nicholson or other streams. The message is pretty loud. I think that they've got to do something, but maybe it is more internal than it is external. At this
Johnny,
stage.
would you do Chychrun if it were up to you? Would you get aggressive on Chychrun?
Yeah, and I'm not saying Chychrun's a perfect player by any stretch, but left shot guy, he's got a contract he can afford. I'm glad you mentioned Klefbom, because Klefbom getting hurt really, really hurt the Edmonton Oilers on that deal. As good as he was, him just kind of not being able to play has made life difficult. But that's part of the deal. Like, these things happen. Lots of franchises have to have these decisions, and and it looks like this year they missed on their goaltending solution. So. Yeah, it's a tricky situation, but I think you got to go. I'm talking buyouts or sweeteners to get rid of contracts, whatever you got to do to be aggressive. I think they have to explore pretty seriously.
And if you look at the playoff race, because the West is so jammed, I think the West has a little less elite in them than the East, but the West has a better competition, if that makes sense. And you got Colorado lurking just behind you. Colorado just beat you in overtime. I'm talking on behalf of the Oilers. Colorado's going to get better. They're getting healthier. So you have to compete in your mind where that's going to go with the Stanley Cup champions. You're right there with Calgary, your rivals. Is Seattle? Everyone keeps waiting for Seattle to back up. I have to admit, I thought they were going to back up, and now they're on an absolute heater. So who's coming back here? LA Kings keep improving. So who's coming back to you here? So
you got to look after
pretty,
your own. Yeah.
For sure. You just mentioned Seattle. We should give them a little bit of love here. I mean, 6 in a row. They've scored 30 goals over those 6 games and given up 11. You guys saw them through out in that part of the world here recently. They don't have any point per game players. The longest losing streak they've had this year is 3 games, a couple of times. They've had streaks of 7 games, 6 games, 5 games. Like, for a second-year franchise, and when the expansion happened, we all looked at each other and went, well, that was a lot tougher than what Vegas had to deal with, right? The rules were different, and it's going to be different. Well, here they are in year number 2, right in the playoff fight, likely to make it on a fantastic run. How great a success story is this, Dregs?
Yeah, it's a real good one. And, again, we just took apart the Edmonton Oilers and what Kenny Holland should be doing. And I'm now more curious because I believe that the Seattle team is a good team. I mean, they've proven it through an extended stretch here, and Ron Francis deserves some credit. Dave Axtell, there were people wondering whether or not he was coming into this second season as head coach of the Seattle Kraken. There were some who believed that Francis was going to replace him last summer, and it didn't happen. He was a very detail-driven coach, but his messaging is getting through. Anybody predict that their goaltending was going to be this good? Because I didn't see it to this point.
Is it that good, Dregs?
Well, it looks like
good?
Well, I mean,
one loss
average
record,
or above average, right?
Both goalies have a save percentage in the 800s, don't they? Like Martin Jones has got like a 19-5 record, so wins are wins. Can't take that away.
Wins are wins.
But
he has an 894. I mean, I was thinking the same thing because I think Martin Jones is such an awesome comeback story, and yet he's under 900. But he finds a way to win games. So it's also part and parcel of the offensive game that we have right now in the NHL this year, which continues to go up the last couple of years. Yeah. I think we have to re-examine what we feel a good save percentage is too, because we're getting about 10 goals a night scored.
894 save percentage, 2.78 goals against average. But he's got that 19-5 record, right? He's got a couple of shutouts. Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying it's not a great story, and he hasn't been good enough. But I don't know if their goaltending's not been good this year. Both guys.
It's a part of why they're good, though. It is like at least they're. Well, I mean, you can't take the 19 wins away from the guys, so their defense is obviously better. But does he have
19 wins because he's playing well? Does he have 19 wins because he's playing well?
He's playing well enough.
For a game? He's
playing well enough.
Doesn't well enough because the team scores a lot of goals. Seattle reminds me. So not to drop, but like my first year in Toronto, we were terrible, right? Like we were like 14th in the conference, no good. We had Matt Sundin and nobody else. I think I was second on the team in scoring. Like we had nobody else. Then my second year, we got Pat Quinn, Cujo, and then like Derek King and Steve Thomas, and all of a sudden the next year, my second year, we were the highest scoring team in the league. Exactly the same way Seattle's doing it. We had Mats, which was different, but we had 9 guys get 20 goals. We had a whole bunch of guys kind of grow and be like solid depth scorers, and it's very liberating for the guys on that team. Nobody feels like I have to score. Not Schwartz, not Eberle, not Burakovsky, Beniers, whatever. Like they all just think I'll score when I score. If I don't, it's not a big deal because somebody else will, and I'm not supposed to score every game anyways. Like, I think they just have this very communal energy about them, which can go a long way. I've seen it firsthand when that 1 year in Toronto, and that's the way I see it. Like, not a great defensive team, but getting enough saves, and they just find a way to score all the time because they roll like 3, sometimes 4 lines that could score, which is the way you build teams now.
And really middling special teams. Like their power play 17th in the league, their penalty kills 31st. So a lot of the success is coming from what they're able to do at even strength, which that's the foundation of your game, right? If you can survive at even strength, which they're doing. So adding. I mean, you want to reward the players for putting together a year like this. What's a realistic ad, Pierre, for these guys?
Well, and again, their cap's in a decent shape moving forward compared to a lot of teams because of their infancy, and Ron Francis has been careful in terms of the way he's handled the cap. But we should, we always talk about July 1st is overrated in terms of really impacting your team. Andre Burakovsky has had a fabulous season. And they did their homework in that front office and said, this guy's a support player in Colorado, but we're going to give him a primetime slot and we're going to unlock him. Washington couldn't do it. Colorado didn't have room to do it, really. He's going to be that guy here, and he has been. So got to give credit to Seattle there with that signing. I think Seattle could be an interesting player at the deadline for that reason. I think they're super excited about being in the race. I think they'll wait closer to March 3rd to make sure, where they are exactly before they give up certain assets. But I could see them add because they have a little more flexibility to do it.
Yeah, and I think there'll be a certain amount of pressure to add too, right? And maybe it doesn't have to be something significant. Maybe it can be a depth add that just makes you a little bit better. It matters to that ownership group, which is extensive. It matters to that fan base. They're on the cusp of nailing down a playoff spot. So if you're Ron Francis, who historically, even though he did good work, as you guys have acknowledged in the offseason, historically, he's a very conservative general manager. So he's not selling the farm just thinking that, okay, let's see how deep we can go here. But I do think that he feels at least a hint of responsibility to give this club some help in certain areas from a fan base perspective, and the fact that it's a good story in Seattle.
Johnny, clearly they need to go get a goalie, hey? Johnny?
Well,
which goalie you
listen,
think they'll target, Johnny?
Carl
Call
Vejmelka.
Carolina.
There you go.
Antti Ranta or Carl Vejmelka. Because Carolina's the perfect example. Absolutely dregs, because I think it would be Ranta, who's a good goalie when healthy. You don't want to upset the apple cart there between the guys they have, but Grubauer has not had a good year. Anyways, yes, absolutely, they could go get a goalie. Is
Really?
Eli Tolvanen? Is Eli Tolvanen a legit middle nine winger? He is right now. They'll wait to see about him, so maybe they could have someone in lieu of him. Or, a depth defense. I think I have Will Borgen playing right now. So, some depth pieces. But I'm serious. I would look at a goalie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd be trying to find that guy who's got 25 wins already.
Yeah.
That's
doesn't
the
need
guy.
to have a great if he gets wins, right?
Right. Because every
thing about
goalie
Carolina,
that
by the
wins
way,
is the best goalie. That's how we do it.
No, Johnny, your
Gotcha.
point is well taken, though, because in the postseason, you hit the postseason, and they're going to hit it with a little bit of expectations, but playing with some house money. And we'll see if a storyline, if they don't make a change, ends up being goaltending. Something tells me Mike won't forget this conversation. And if Seattle goes out and goaltending is an issue, he's going to be like, Ryan, get Dregs back on the pod. Get Dregs back on the pod. 100% possible.
It's easier said than done. Like, listen, you have two goalies, one to a long-term contract, one who never loses. What are you going to bring another guy in? Like, I get it's tricky, but if somehow Grubauer is hurt or something, then I think with given the Pacific, is it out of the question that they could beat LA? Like, I like LA, but if they play LA in 2-3, it's not. The Pacific is soft this year.
Yeah,
Yes.
Like Vegas
Agreed.
is pretty good, but they don't have a ton of great teams right now. So you don't want to mortgage the future, but let's not ignore the present. They have an opportunity to win a round. They will be virtually even money to win the first round. So I'm not going to just ignore the opportunity in front of them this year either.
Great year to make the playoffs.
Don't forget,
in the
Chris
West.
Dreger should be back at some point, right? After that serious injury suffered at the World Championships last year. I'm just saying. I mean, he had his moments in Florida, so I guess he'll get a look somehow.
Okay, before we wrap up today, it is the midpoint of the NHL season, so we're going to do some mid-season quick hitters. I know you guys absolutely love these. I'll go over the rules and point system. Rules are keep your answers to 10 to 15 seconds. Point system is whatever I decide. Now, the biggest issue we have is figuring out the order. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tee up the question for one of you, and then at the tail end of your answer, you choose who's going next. So say Dregs or Pierre or whatever, and then we don't have people talking over each other, and you can decide who goes next. So
I'm bored already.
Yeah, I know you are. That's your attention span is that of a field mouse, so we got to keep you engaged. I'll tell you what, you get the first question first. Biggest surprise of the first half of the season, Dregs. When you're thinking about the year so far, what are you most surprised by?
Boston, and just how quick they were able to jump out of the gate, given everything that they had on their plate with injury, etc., and how well Patrice Bergeron continues to play. Mike Johnson,
Tage Thompson. I thought he might be in line for regression, perhaps, like dropping off his pace, not bettering his pace, and being in the MVP conversation. Stunned he's playing as well as he is. Pierre, I got Tage Thompson.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I'm going to go the Winnipeg Jets because while I thought they would battle for a playoff spot, I thought it'd be near the bottom of the bracket. But the complete bounce back under Rick Bowness, obviously Vezina version of Connor Hellebuck, has been a spectacular story. They're fighting for first place in the West.
Well done. You all stayed to time there, and reasonably decent answer. So you each get 5 points. Okay, we'll go to you on this, Pierre. Who's going to win the Rocket? You got McDavid at 34, Pasternak 32, Thompson 31, then a bunch of guys, Robertson, Ovi, Horvat sitting at around 29. Who are you going to
Where's
give the
Austin
Rocket to?
Matthews?
Yeah. Well, he's not on the immediate list, but Johnny, you get docked 5 points for interrupting. Pierre?
So give me David Pasternak because I love the drama of his contract situation. I don't love it. I love the storyline because he's going to win the Rocket, and it's going to be like Malkin, where it's going to be June 30th at midnight, and J.P. Barry, the agent, and Don Sweeney, they've known each other forever, have to hammer out a deal before he hits the market, and Dregs will be all over it, and it'll be fun to follow.
I'm saying McDavid if you're coming to me. I don't know. I mean, Ryan, I remember having this conversation with you saying, oh, the goals don't matter to Connor. He just wants to win as a team. The goals don't matter.
That's his voice.
He's going to score.
That's Ryan's voice.
He looked like an idiot.
He's going to score 50 plus, and he's going to push aside all this negative narrative. So it'll be McDavid for me, Johnny.
Yeah, Dregs. I remember Shaw would be like, "Oh, it's all about defense with Connor. It's all about team defense."
Yeah, I don't think I said that.
Here he is.
I think you're making crap up
goals.
now.
Could you imagine? Like, he needs 16 goals for 50. He's never had 50s.
Yeah.
50's a slam dunk. It's very likely he gets 58 or 9. I'm taking Connor, and I don't believe him. I think he wants to win the scoring, the Rocket.
So do
I think he wants to do it one time, like Sid's done it one time. I think he's like, yeah, it's part of what I want to do.
Yep.
As the host of the podcast, this is where I could take as much time as I wanted to defend myself, but I'm not going to because it's pointless. You guys are donkeys. All of that was taken completely out of context. By the way, McDavid, 2 goals in his last 5 games. Cooled off a little bit here on the goal scoring front.
Power play, slow down.
Yeah, great point by you. Johnny, 0 for 6 the other night. Holy smokes, what was that about? Jacob Markstrom ranks 23rd among the 27 goalies with 20 starts this year. In his save percentage. How big a problem is this for the Calgary Flames, Mike Johnson?
Massive problem. I'm surprised it's lingered this long. Like, I had a slow start, whatever, tough finish last year, but he was one of the best goalies in the league last year. And he's got a track record of being good. But unless he straightens it out, they will be, nip and tuck to make the playoffs. It's a big, big problem. We're 3 months and 40 games in, so you can't say it's a blip. It's an issue. Dregs?
Agreed. Huge issue and disappointing one, obviously, for the Calgary Flames, because you guys recall when he arrived from Vancouver, there was all sorts of growing pains, the COVID issue, all of this stuff. Markstrom was unsettled. And then he has that season that he had last year. I can't imagine Brad Treliving expected that Jacob Markstrom was going to be anything other than a star goaltender this season, and he's been anything but that, Pierre.
Yeah, and he wasn't very good in the Battle of Alberta, by the way. And, Ryan, I think he's never been the same since I asked him why he didn't sign in Edmonton.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much you asking him. It was you asking him every day for the entire series, I think, that probably got into his head.
That was bad of me. But no, you know what? But I mean, he really was shaky in the Battle of Alberta, and I feel like it's had a carryover into this year, to be honest. I mean, that was one of the more surprising elements to me of a series, by the way, that everyone picked Calgary to win. And he was one of the reasons why Edmonton, outside of Connor McDavid being McJesus, not getting saves. And it's just carried over. I think that affected him, his playoff performance.
He did slay that dragon this year, though. Had a real good performance against the Oilers. One of his better performances of the year. So he did get past that, which I don't think there's going to be a playoff series between these two teams. But if there is, he can definitely lean back on that. Okay, final question. What is the right amount of stress for Bill Zito to be feeling over his first round pick, potentially lottery, belonging to Montreal in the Bedard draft? Your 3 choices are on his mind daily, guarantee he's thinking about it right this second, or flat out cold sweat at night. Pierre.
Yeah, I think cold sweat at night, and we've all had conversations with Bill Zito over the years. The guy absolutely is consumed by winning and by his job and by his responsibility in it. I think they knew they were taking a bit of a step back this year with all the offseason roster changes, but we're comfortable with the long-term vision. Remember, more cap space next summer, but where they are right now is not where they thought they'd be.
Pierre, 5
Docking you
points. You didn't
points.
say my name. I'll go next
Docking
because
you
Pierre doesn't know
points,
how to play this game.
Sorry, I
Listen,
forgot.
there is not a category high enough for the urgency and panic about this. If they thought they were taking a step back, then why the hell are you giving an unprotected first-round pick away for Ben Sherratt? If you think you're like, come on. It is like, it's okay to trade first-round picks, but you need, as evidenced by Toronto way back in the Phil Kessel deal, you absolutely need. And Montreal would have accepted a lottery protected pick because no one would expect them to be in the lottery. It is a massive mistake, almost a fireable offense. Like you just cannot do it. I don't want this to happen to Bill Zito, but I really want Florida to win the lottery. Like I 100% want them to come 10th, win first, and have it go to Montreal just to say, what the hell is going on?
Absolute
whatever
anarchist.
the highest level is, that's where he is. DEFCON 19 is where he's at.
Yeah, it feels to me like maybe Mike Johnson got a heads up on this one because, man, are you emotionally invested in this?
It's being in the
That's
dad's
impressive.
basement, right?
Listen,
like dad's basement is
that's it.
bringing out an extra 20% in Mike Johnson today. I love
That was
it.
impressive. I liked it. I'm going the opposite way. I mean, obviously he's thinking about it, so I'm going to say he's thinking about it daily. To acquire Ben Sherratt, keep in mind at that time, Ben Sherratt was a pretty hot commodity by NHL standards, right? Like, I mean, there were a number of teams that were interested in
indefensible.
John A.
Indefensible.
I get it, but they felt like they were a true Stanley Cup contender last year. So whether they felt like they were going all in or not, that was the approach. Is it a mistake? In hindsight, of course it's a mistake. It's a mistake, but I don't think that Billy Zito is a pretty cool customer. He's thinking about it, but I don't think he's in a cold sweat or tying the noose anytime soon.
So guaranteed, it's on his mind right now. Is likely Dreg's answer there out of the three. Okay, boys, that's gonna wrap it up. That was a pretty solid little mid-season edition. I liked it. We didn't do a red card, yellow card, no card today. And the Quizmaster is not happy with me because it's his favorite segment in the podcast. So we're going to do a little impromptu one here. We don't have the ultimate arbiter, Terry Ryan. Red card, yellow card, no card. 2 of the 3 of you get to take part in this. You live your entire life a massive fan of a team. And in the most exciting part of the season where you can get together and enjoy and have drinks and spirits and fun and friends and revel in your fandom, you lock yourself in your office and sweat staring at a TV by yourself. Johnny, red card, yellow card, no card.
It's a red card and an ejection. Like, why be a fan with a blankie over your head?
Oh, Pierre.
Well, like, if you can't enjoy the communal aspect of your fandom, like, if it's like locking, just terrorizing yourself because it's so stressful, Dregs, I don't know. Like, I appreciate the passion, and it's not just Pierre, but I don't know. Like, if it's that serious to you, and he's not alone, it seems like it's too much. We might have to have a little session, Pierre. You and I talk this one out.
Yeah, it's
a red card. My wife would welcome your participation in leading that charge.
It's a red card because anybody who's spent at least 5 minutes with Pierre and watching a Cowboys game, it's insanity. It's creepy. It's at times offside. I mean, I just throw any adjective you want. It's all of those things.
How's it creepy?
I have no defense. It's all true.
Like the gestures that he makes when there's a nice play by the Cowboys. I mean, it's like, what are we doing? We're grown men here. Like, what is happening?
Pierre.
I don't know.
Can't wait to see your Super Bowl wing when they go all the way there, Pierre. It's going to be amazing.
Oh,
it's been a long time.
Full red card for you today, Pierre. Full red card. But in terms of the point system, I think you won the day. So winner and a loser today, Pierre Lebrun. Thanks, guys. Appreciate this. That'll wrap up the podcast, folks. Our mid-season edition here on Got Your Back, Lebrun and Rishaug. Big thanks to our sponsors, Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals, Pro Hockey Life, and, of course, Liberty Smart Security, also a valued sponsor here on Got Your Back. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will check in probably later on this week. Maybe drop another podcast on Friday. Talk to you then, folks. Cheers. We want to tell you about a truly Canadian company. Cross Country Canada Supplies and Rentals provides equipment and supplies to all facets of the Canadian construction industry. But what sets them apart is their get-her-done attitude. It's a core value of their company. I've been to the offices. I've seen how they proudly display that on the wall at each branch. Every one of the staff members lives by the get-her-done formula to ensure they'll never let their customers down. They'll bend over backwards to get their clientele what they need when they need it. They don't make excuses. Cross Country Canada takes great pride in this attitude, and they truly believe that the success of their customer is their success. You can't get much more Canadian than that.